Welcome to the Success is a Choice podcast. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler. And today we have a guest who is absolute money. Rachel Cruze is a two-time #1 national best-selling author. Now, she's had 2 books, so that means she's 100% at being a national best-selling author, but she's also a financial expert, the host of the Rachel Cruze Show. And since 2010, Rachel has served at Ramsey Solutions, where along with a great team, including her father, Dave Ramsey, they teach people to avoid debt, save money, and not hate the word budget so much. We look forward to talking with Rachel about her brand new book, which comes out today, and also how to win with money. So Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We're really excited. Today is the day you've long been waiting for. Your new book comes out. Yeah, it's awesome. Lots of blood, sweat, and tears. I don't know about the blood, but lots of sweat and typing away at a keyboard. And we'll get into that new book here in just a few minutes, but it's awesome. A lot of people know you as Dave Ramsey's daughter. I've loved, obviously that's where I was first introduced to you. I love your books, particularly the one, Love Your Life, Not Theirs. That's pretty cool. My wife, though, I mentioned that you were coming on the show today, and she said, oh, she's got the money wallet. I love that wallet.
That's right. The new one. I know. We launched it like 2 months ago, and I'm so glad she loves it. Or I'm so glad she's excited about it.
It's great. It's a great thing. But I'm curious, where do you put your credit cards?
I know. We got 10 card slots, not for the credit cards, but for all the debit cards and the store cards you have.
All the membership cards.
That's it.
Excellent. Well, for those that may not be totally on board with knowing who Rachel Cruze is, your parents declared bankruptcy only a few months after you were born, and it was all rainbows and butterflies after that, right? So give us a little a clue as to your life and what you've done and how you've gotten to this point, in like 30 seconds. No elevator pitch. No.
Real quick. Yes. So my story, started at the bottom of my parents' financial mess. And from there, growing up as Dave Ramsey's kid, we learned a lot, obviously, about money and how it works. And so I started traveling and speaking with him when I was 15. And I would do these little kid product pitches during the breaks at his events about teaching your kids how to handle money. And someone was like, oh, it'd be a great idea if Rachel, Dave Ramsey's kid, was up there pitching the product. So I kind of started in that way and really fell in love with public speaking. And I was like, oh, this is so fun. I enjoy it. And realized that was really unique because most people hate public speaking. So the fact I actually enjoy it was kind of different. And then I went on to college. I went to the University of Tennessee. And that's when I felt like the message of what we teach really hit home with me, because I was meeting these students, my age, that were signing up for credit cards and had so much student loan debt already. And I mean, it just snowballed. And I remember thinking at 18 years old, I don't have all the answers, but I know there's a better way for them to do this. I know it because I would talk to people at these events 10 years, later of these college students and how much they regretted so many decisions they made in their past. And so when I graduated from college, I said, I want to do this. I want to travel and speak and talk about money and help people find that freedom and that control over their money versus their money controlling them. And right around that time, I got married as well. So Winston, my husband, we've been married almost, it's been 11 years, which is just crazy. Our anniversary is in December, so we just celebrated 11 years. And we have 3 kids. Amelia is 5, Caroline's 3, and Charles is 1. So it's a house full of craziness, but I still get to do this stuff. And I love it, though. I really do, because I think money can be a really shameful topic for a lot of people, and it can seem very intimidating and scary. And so being able to break it down in a really simple way and guide people through a path to show them, hey, here's how this stuff works. And if you do these things, you will find that freedom. And so it's been such a great, incredible journey.
Well, your first book you co-wrote with your dad, Smart Money, Smart Kids. And you mentioned you have 3 kids yourself, and, you grew up obviously in the household of Dave Ramsey, this financial guru. Well, he has this thing called Financial Peace Junior.
Yes.
We got this for our son. Our son's 10. We got it for him about 5 years ago, all these books and this planner and this chore chart, and we still use it to this day. It's awesome. I've got 2 questions for you related to that. number one, just in general, what kind of advice would you have in a snapshot for people like me? I mean, not our listeners, forget our listeners, just me for my 10-year-old. No, but for kids, for parents out there with kids. And then number two, how upset were you that your dad used a character that wasn't you? He used a boy, a junior. Shouldn't it have been Rachel that he used in all of his little books for the kids?
Thank you. It's taken hundreds of dollars of counseling to really get over that wound, but I'm good. But yeah, with parents and kids, I think this is such a crucial part of life, because I think, a lot of parents, again, the mistakes that they've made with money, a lot of them feel like, who am I to talk to my kids about money? Like, we live paycheck to paycheck. We have credit card debt and student loan debt, and we're a mess financially. So who am I? And my encouragement always is like, you as the parent have to take on this responsibility. And it's really simple. It's things like teaching them commission versus allowance, teaching them that, money comes from work. Money doesn't just come from your back pocket. And then keeping up with those chores, like you were saying, and paying them, and then teaching them 3 things with money: give, save, and spend, in that order. Learning to give first, save second, spend third, and having them do all 3 and really guiding them in that. And then I think out of those things, and being open with your life and your money, is to talk about money and make it a part of conversation. Because I think for parents, there's subjects that they're nervous to talk about, right? It's like politics, sex, money, like these things are like, oh, I don't know how to go about it. But really just being open. And when you are open and you have that communication, and you are being an example of how to do this well, it just takes all the shame off of money, all the scary stuff that's associated with it, and it just becomes a part of life. And what they really end up seeing is that money is a tool in your life. It's not something we worship. It's not something that has to control us. It actually, we can use it as a tool to create a life that we love and what we want for our families. Oh no, I can't hear you.
I got you.
Oh, there we go. Good. Sorry, Jamie.
No, that was my fault. Hit that little mute button, really.
No, it's good.
So my son had $100 bill last summer, or 2 summers ago, and he was really excited. He had worked hard to get it, and he was going to Bible camp, vacation Bible school, and he wanted to give $100. He came home and said he wanted to give $100 for the offering. I was so proud of him for like 3 seconds. And then he followed it up with, because we win if the boys can give more money than the girls. And so I've got to win it for the boys. So, my charitable, the heart, the dad heart was excited for a couple seconds. And then my competitor, the former coach in me, was like, yes, you got to win. Great job.
Like, do it. Just give it away. You guys win.
Absolutely. So growing up, the daughter of Dave Ramsey, was there a purchase that you made that he just absolutely shook his head about, was totally frustrated? Or maybe it was just a purchase you made last week that he still, texted you and said, what in the world are you doing?
Thankfully, in my adult life, we have a good boundary. He doesn't speak into our money. And what's really funny is I remember Winston and I, we'd been married, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years. And we had this like money dilemma of something, nothing like catastrophic, but of like, should we do this or this? What's wiser? And we were talking to him about it, and he was like, I don't know. What do you guys think? I was like, no, I really want your advice. He's like, well, I think you can figure it out. Like, he like literally would not tell us what to do. I was like, I'm asking you. So yeah, he has a good boundary that, he doesn't speak into the money situation. But yeah, I was definitely the kid, though, just to give you parents hope, that would spend. I mean, and I still do. I love to spend money. And I was the spender, though. I mean, if I had $2, I would buy like 6 packs of gum at the grocery store. Like, I was just constantly spending. So I was the kid they had to talk to, of like, hey, if you, opportunity costs, if you buy this now, it's going to go away. It's gum, and it's going to get old in about an hour, and then your money's gone. Like, constant. But the great thing is, Mom and Dad, they always let us make mistakes. And especially me, I feel like I made the most mistakes with money as a kid, but I'm so thankful because they were very inexpensive, small mistakes, but you start to learn and understand, versus handling money on your own for the first time at 18, and you have no idea what you're doing. And so, yeah, there was, for sure. I'm trying to think if there's something recently. I've not bought it yet, and I don't know if I will ever, but I really, really want a Tesla, the car. And he is so aghast. He's like, I cannot believe my daughter wants an electric car. And I'm like, no, I do. Not because I'm a huge environmental person. I just think they're so cool. So if I ever bought a Tesla, that probably would be one purchase he'd probably hang his head a little on.
But you would pay cash.
Of course, yes. And it'd probably be used too, let's be honest. Yeah.
Well, so for those people that maybe don't know, give us kind of a snapshot of what the Ramsey philosophy is on money, because there's a lot of financial people out there, and there's financial investors, and we all have, millions of dollars, it seems like, in loans, and we're always making these purchases and doing all these kind of stuff. So give us a snapshot of what the Ramsey philosophy is.
Yes. Well, the Ramsey philosophy is pretty much common sense. So it's things like live on less than you make. If you don't have the money, don't buy it. Like those kind of philosophies. And it's hard to do personal finance. It's 80% behavior. It's only 20% head knowledge. So what we teach is very simple to understand, but it is really hard to do in our culture today. So we're kind of known as the get out of debt people. So we're all about living without debt. So that's right. The Tesla would be paid for in cash, no car payments, and really understanding that money, your income is your largest wealth building tool. And when your income comes in and it goes straight back out in payments, it's hard to build wealth. It's hard to win with money overall. It's hard to be generous and to give. It's so hard to do those things. But when you don't have debt, you have no payments. Mathematically, you're free. Financially, you're free. Spiritually and emotionally, you're free. There's a level of freedom that you are not in this bondage of owing someone something. So getting people out of debt, we are so passionate about. And so we talk about listing all of your debts, smallest to largest, and paying them off that way. We call it the debt snowball. And then we talk about saving a lot, obviously having an emergency fund. 40% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency in cash. And that's a problem, because then that perpetuates the cycle of debt. If you don't have the money for it, you're going to go charge it on the credit card. And so to get out of that, having that level of savings, that safety net in life is huge. So we talk about that. We go into retirement and kids' college, and really living this life, again, where you are controlling your money. And then budgeting is like the cherry on top of all of that, of saying, yeah, you have to be on a budget. And as a spender, I hated the word budget for so long. But then I realized that a budget is just permission to spend. You're giving yourself permission to spend on things that you want and that you have guardrails and boundaries with, but you are putting your money towards the things that you want. And so I think that's really, it's an important way to live, is to be intentional with that. And that's what that monthly budget does. It's kind of that roadmap. So again, nothing too confusing, but doing all of those things in our world today is really difficult.
Well, common sense, isn't always common.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And those things, my wife and I started listening to the Dave Ramsey show years and years when we first got married, essentially. And it's been very helpful through the years. Good. But you mentioned the debt snowball, and that's a different concept. And that's not something that all financial planners or financial people talk about. But I think of it like the old, the dumb cliche, or how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
You take care of those little things first, and you have small wins, and you get some momentum.
That's exactly right. And that's back to that behavior change, is like, if you're, if you go the highest interest rate first, yeah, mathematically that would be correct. But yet if it's like one of your largest debts, it's going to take forever, and it's going to feel like this black hole. But when you have that $300 credit card bill and you can just pay it off, you're like, oh, wow, I can do this. And that motivation, yes, like, oh, you have to have that motivation and those quick wins. And there was actually, Stanford actually did a study on people that were getting out of debt using the debt snowball method versus the debt avalanche, is what they call that highest interest rate. And the people that did the debt snowball got out of debt faster, because that momentum starts to pick up, and you start to see and feel that light at the end of the tunnel, that hope. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see.
Well, you had a book. I really love the title, love the concept of it, love your life, not theirs. And, I've repeated this so many times. I first heard it from your dad, but we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't even like. and that's amazing. There's so many people buying Teslas, and they can't afford it, but they want to be the cool people on the block, and they don't even like the people next door to them anyways. But love your life, not theirs. Where did that concept come from? Talk to us a little bit about that book.
Yeah, that kind of birthed out of my own experience. I'm someone that comparison living was a real thing for me. And for a while, social media and everything that brought with it, and spending my money and realizing, oh, like, kind of caring what people thought. And I was like, and I got to this point where I was exhausted, and I remember I deleted Instagram. I like deleted all the stuff because I was like, this is exhausting, because you realize you're a rat in a wheel and you never make the finish line. Like, you're not going anywhere. And that's what that comparison living does. It's like when you run after this thing that is not, you can never get there, because there's always going to be a bigger and better, or someone else that's winning ahead of you. And the other problem, obviously, is that you're not seeing the whole picture when it comes to social media. You get one snapshot and you base your entire life and everything you think about this person on these pictures. And I'm like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And thankfully, I feel like people have been awakened to that since I wrote the book, but yet the problem is still there. And I think that comparison of whether it's, hey, I want to be just like them, so I'm going to do whatever it takes, or I deserve it. Well, if they do that, I get to do this. I mean, there's like a level of entitlement sometimes that comparison brings out in you. And so just being really careful. And I lay out 7 money habits to living the life that you want, not what everyone else is telling you. And the Joneses, yeah, they're broke. I mean, statistically speaking, 78% of them live paycheck to paycheck. So you're keeping up with broke people, and you're going to look crazy when you start saying, hey, you know what? We're going to sell the car. We're not going to go out to eat. We're not going on vacation. We are getting out of debt, and we're making sacrifices. And then on the back end, you can still do those things, right? It's not forever, but getting in yourself where people are not controlling your spending, the thoughts of what they're doing, and a level of like, yeah, our culture is just, it's crazy. And so kind of putting those blinders on is what that book was about. Stop comparison. Yeah, stop the comparison. Love your life. Focus on your life and not everyone else's.
Yeah, comparisons are tough, especially in social media.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you can follow Rachel at Rachel.
That's right. I have Instagram again, so if you want to.
Yeah, so you can compare your life to Rachel. Yeah. No, bad transition, but at Rachel Cruze on Instagram and Twitter, you can follow her. But I had somebody that Ken Coleman, on the show, episode 72, and talk about comparison the whole time. The whole time I'm trying to ask this guy questions. You're thinking he wrote a book about the one question he would ask all these people, and he's known as being one of the best question askers out there. And so that was pretty intimidating. Talk about comparison. It's like, oh, this question wasn't good enough. He wouldn't have asked this question.
Oh no, that's so funny. Ken sets a low bar. No, I'm just kidding. I love Ken.
Yeah, but comparison, we know that. But you've talked about your 2 bestsellers, but now you got another one. Well, it's going to be a bestseller. Came out today. So excited. Know Yourself, Know Your Money is the title. And then the subtitle, Discover Why You Handle Money the Way You Do and What to Do About It. So know yourself, know your money. Why did you want to write this book?
Yeah, I went on this kind of personal journey, if you will, a few years ago, where I started to really understand myself. And I was like, a lot of self-awareness through books I was reading. I took the Enneagram, which is kind of this like personality thing, did some counseling, and just really kind of had these aha moments about my life and realizing here's why I do the things I do. And it's everything from how I grew up, my personality, I mean, all of it, but really finding those things in me that's below the surface. And what that translated into, I believe, becoming healthier emotionally. And I feel like I was a much better wife. I was a better mom, better friend, daughter, all of this just because of the self-awareness. And so through that, I remember thinking, gosh, can I ask this question with my money? Like, why do I do the things with money the way I do? And it took me down this like black hole of this whole journey of like, oh, wow. And I remember thinking, I've got to write a book on this. Because at Ramsey, we talk about the how-to. Everything we just talked about in this podcast is how to win with money, how to budget, how to get out of debt, how to do these, how to retire wealthy. I mean, how to do it all. But really going underneath that surface and asking, but why? Why am I doing the things I'm doing? Why did I get deeply in debt in the first place? Why am I spending money here versus over there? And just asking those questions and kind of unpacking that has been really exciting because again, I don't want self-awareness for self-awareness sake, but when you start to understand why you handle money the way you do, and you actually do something about it and change those bad behaviors and pinpoint that why, I really believe you can win with money faster. And that journey is going to be way more enjoyable than just white knuckling your way through getting out of debt. And it's just like, oh, but no, when you actually understand yourself, it becomes not, I wouldn't say easier because the sacrifices are still there, but it's this more of this awakening of realizing, wow, this is who I am and why I am the way I am. Oh, sorry, it's muted. No, you're great. You're great.
Seriously, this was not my first first podcast episode. I literally have had a few before, but wow. But we're all wired differently. You know, my grandma lived through the Great Depression, and so she obviously handled money and gave gifts much differently than I would. She was wired differently. But you know, even my wife Tabitha and I are different in the way we see money, deal with money. In your book, you talk about 7 major money tendencies. What are maybe 1 or 2 of those things that you like the best from those?
Yeah, one question I was asking is, why do you want to win with money in the first place? What's your motivation of, okay, you're going to do all these things, but why? And I realized there was kind of two sides of the spectrum. There was the safety element that a lot of people would lean on, the security of, yeah, I'm going to budget, I'm going to get out of debt so that I'm going to be okay, so that I have money. There's a level of security there. And then some people are doing all of this for status, and status sounds like a negative word. I don't mean it to be negative, but to say, yeah, I want to actually win with money so that I can do things in my life that I want to do. And answering that question really will help you understand yourself through this money journey. And I definitely lean more on the status side. Like I said, I'm a spender, and the idea of budgeting, I'm like, I don't want to budget just to budget. Like, I want to budget to know that I get to do something fun on the other side. And so for me, that's, you know, that's clear as day for me, but understanding your why are you wanting to win with money in the first place and get control of it? There's also when you spend money, are you spending it on experiences or things? And my husband, we are polar opposites on this. I am like experience all the way. I'm like, take me out to a nice dinner, or I'll buy a gym, you know, a membership at the zoo so I can take my kids to the zoo. Like, I mean, I want the experience of life versus like a tangible thing. And Winston is a thing. He is like a gadget guy. He hunts, so he like loves stuff for that. I mean, like, he has hobbies, and he's like, no, I want actual things. Like, even our Christmas lists, I laugh all the time. Like, this past Christmas, I'm like, they're complete opposites. Like, everything I asked for, there's an experience tied to it, and he wants light bulbs for the living room so that Alexa can turn it on when he asks. Like, I mean, it's like, it's that kind of thing. And I used to be so like bewildered by it. But then once I got language to it, I was like, oh, wow, he values things more than experiences, and I value experiences. So this is why we sometimes will butt heads on where to spend money, but that's the why. And again, I think that allows, when you understand yourself and other people in your life, especially your spouse, if you're married, you get a level of empathy that you wouldn't otherwise.
Well, my wife, the very second year we were married, she was very frustrated with our printer. And she said we needed a new printer, and her birthday was coming up, and I got her a printer for her birthday.
You're so generous.
I am such a romantic. So yes, we are wired very differently. Fear, speaking of being fearful of your wife when you give her a terrible gift, but no, fear, how does fear play into the money situation? And you talk about this a little bit in your new book.
Yes. Yeah. Fear, it is a motivator. And I realized through this book, when I was writing the manuscript, I got to speak to a lot of people that I really value in this area of life. And so Dr. Chip Dodd, I talked to him, and he was explaining to me, which I had never really heard before, but that fear, it's a gift. We see fear as such a negative thing. And when fear turns into anxiety, then it gets unhealthy. But fear in and of itself actually is just your body's alarm to say, hey, something's off, and I need to do something. So whether it's a primal fear, a bear's running at you and you're gonna have to run the other way, right? Like, I have to survive. Or it's this fear when it comes to money, that things pop up and you realize, that makes me fearful. And when that happens, you need to listen to that and understand and say, okay, what are things I can put into place to help navigate that fear? And again, when it turns into an anxiety and it gets, you know, overwhelming, that's a different level for sure. But a lot of the fears that I talk to, you know, people talk about the lack of security, this fear, are we going to be okay? And this is actually women's number one financial fear. And, you know, like we've talked about, most Americans living paycheck to paycheck. They can't cover a $400 emergency in cash, 40% of Americans. And so at this place that if something happens, like a pandemic or something like that, like, are we going to be okay? And that's a real fear. And so let that fear be a motivator to not just change your behaviors, but put things in place like getting out of debt and not owing anyone anything, getting an emergency fund, making really wise moves with your money. So let that fear be a good motivation. But when you can pinpoint the fear, that helps. There's also a fear, which I heard from a lot of people, which is interesting, is I don't want to end up like my parents. And so we talk about the boomerang generation of college students coming back and living with their parents, But now there's like the boomerang generation where parents now can't retire and they're coming to live back home with their grown kids. And I've talked to a few friends that this has happened to, and they've just said, I will never put my kids in this position. Like their parents just were not good with money and didn't save well, didn't plan for the future. And now they're stuck. And, just hearing people say, I don't want to end up like that. Or on the opposite side, parents that were all about other people and trying to impress and in a lot of debt, and stuff was like an idol, and they just kept buying. Some people I talk to, they are repulsed by it and they're like, I don't want to end up like that. Like, I don't want that. And so hearing that fear of people that they don't want to end up like their parents is a good one, because again, you can use that fear to motivate you to do things with your money that is going to help you in the future versus harm you.
So you mentioned that most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and that's one of the reasons they have to take out credit card debt, because they don't have the money to pay for the things that they think they want. What can we do to maybe, are there some practical things that we can do to save money a little bit better?
Yeah, there is. I mean, saving money only is going to happen when you decide to do it. And when you get to the end of the month, you're like, oh, we have no money, I can't save it. It's because everything's turned upside down. You got to flip it. You got to save first. And that's why doing a budget, honestly, is so important, because you prioritize what you want to prioritize. And we talk about this even with kids, we said earlier, but give, save, and spend. You give first, you save second, you spend third. And that saving has to be a priority. And so just getting $1,000 in the bank is huge. So like, make that your first goal, get $1,000, and then start working your way out of debt. And once that's complete, then you can build that up to a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. And again, it's not going to just happen. You really do have to say, okay, what are things I can cut? What are things I can sell? What are ways I can bring in more income to make this process happen? Because again, people are in that paycheck to paycheck living. So something has to switch, whether the income of money switches and it goes up, or the outgo changes and you cut things, or both.
And we talked about the debt snowball, and that's part of habits, just small daily habits. And eventually, before you know it, it becomes a way of life.
That's right.
These habits.
Yeah. And that's how budgeting was for me, honestly. And I realized, I said earlier, but I did not want to budget at first. I was like, oh. And after Winston and I were married for a few months, it was like, okay, no, we really do need a budget. He was the one that was saying this. And I was like, I know. But now, obviously a decade later, I couldn't imagine living without a budget. Like a budget, it honestly gives me this peace of mind when I spend money. Like I can go on Amazon without guilt, without shame, because I know this amount's allotted for house stuff, or this is allotted for the kids, and I can buy the X, Y, and Z. Like it gives you this peace of mind. And so it's funny now, living with something like a budget or just your lifestyle in general, when you stop doing that after a while, it feels weird. So make it a habit and it becomes your normal.
So everybody, Amazon rules the world, and that's where we all shop, at Amazon, pretty much. But you guys are very anti-credit card. Is that so? What are some tips, or 1-2 tips for shopping on Amazon?
Don't let it be automatic. That one-click purchasing will get you. So you have to say, put a few friction points between you and the purchase, which helps. Because in the moment you're like, oh, I just want to spend. It helps lower it for sure. I would say that. And then I'm a broken record, but it's true. Like go back to the budget and say, okay, what can I spend here? And maybe you wait on a purchase overnight. Maybe you wait to next month, but letting it fit into your overall goal, because I think people can spend out of stress. They can spend out of boredom. And so really asking the question, why do I really need this thing? And why am I spending money on it?
Well, last question. It's a financial question. Obviously, but purchase of $100 or less than $100. Has there been something that you've spent less than $100 on that like changed your life, or was this absolutely impactful thing that you can think of?
I would say a smart thing that we spend less than $100 on is life insurance. It's like that I was talking to someone about. I was like, it's really cheap. It's really cheap, and you can get that. No, but I'm trying. Let me think of like
at Xander Insurance.
Yeah, Xander. Yes, we can plug them. No, something impactful, less than $100. Oh gosh. Okay, I don't know why this is coming to my head, and this is so silly, but it's so true. Off Amazon, we got this an electric fly swatter. I know.
For your husband or for your kids?
My husband bought it because it's a thing and a gadget and he loves it. And we use it all the time and it's amazing. So if you don't have an electric fly swatter, just do yourself a favor and get one because it will change everything.
If you want to change your life, buy an electric fly swatter.
Yeah, that and life insurance.
If you remember nothing else from this interview
terrible
today.
Answer. I know it was a terrible answer. I'll think of something in like 10 minutes.
That's okay. You can find her, Rachel Cruze. That's Cruze. At Rachel Cruze on Instagram, at Rachel Cruze on Twitter, and rachelcruze.com. But you can get her new book, Know Yourself, Know Your Money, wherever fine books are sold, especially on Amazon. But Rachel, we definitely appreciate you being on the show today, and good luck with the launch of your book today.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for having me on.
What a great conversation with Rachel today. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed talking with her. I've learned so much about finances from Rachel and her dad through the years. And we'll be sure to put a bunch of cool links in the show notes. So if you care about money, which I'm guessing that you probably do a little bit at least, then make sure you go check out the show notes for all those helpful links. Also, go out and get Rachel's new book. It came out today. That's right. Very exciting. So don't delay. Go get that book. Finally, speaking of money, we like to do these podcasts without charging a subscription or putting it behind the paywall or, selling all kinds of ads. So if you like this show, there's a very easy way to support it without forking over any moolah. Take just a quick minute, head over to Apple Podcasts, also known as iTunes, post a positive comment or leave a 5-star rating. It's simple, it's easy, it's free. It is the best way to make sure that we can keep doing the podcast week after week. Thanks so much. And until next time, remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?